This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margot, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have FBG Jen.
Hey.
And we have FBG Kristen.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. We have a great guest today, Robbie Ann Darby. She has these RAD fitness parties, and we're going to talk all about it today. She's a fantastic guest. We go into all kinds of things, but we especially love to talk about fashion on this show, and we get into fashion with her. And you guys, you got some leggings talk to do today, don't you?
We do. We designed a pair of leggings.
What?
It's one of the craziest things because I was talking about, about a month ago, we released two different designs because we worked with a brand called For Athletics. They make amazing high quality stuff at like a really like affordable price. And it's for like FOUR athletics. But we worked with them and got to two different designs that Kristen and I like absolutely love. We worked really closely with their designer and shared like what we liked in current fashion trends and what inspired us and what FBG was about and the feel and everything like that. And we got to narrow down to two different designs that we couldn't choose from. So we put them up to a vote on the site. And we officially have a winner, and they are officially for sale. And if you go to forathletics.com, you will be able to purchase them just now for the next couple of weeks. We'll take orders, and then they all get mailed, and then they are all sent out. But forathletics.com if you want to get yours.
Yeah, and we'll have
fun.
A link. Yeah, we'll have a link in the show notes on fitbottomedgirls/podcast. So if you're listening to this in your car or whatever, just remember fitbottomedgirls.com/podcast. We will link out to where you can purchase them. So it's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy. And they're awesome. Like and they have pockets. Jen, you didn't even mention the pockets.
I know. I was like, they have pockets. The pockets are everything. I swear to God. Once you have a pair of leggings with a pocket, and it's a big enough pocket that it'll, even if you have like one of the big iPhones, like it'll even fit in, like it'll fit like extremely well in there, which is important.
For traveling yesterday, I was on a plane like all day, and I wore them, and it was perfect because like having my passport in one and my phone in the other, and it was like, and they're like tight to the sides of your legs, so that was
awesome. It doesn't like stuff doesn't come out of it.
No, they don't get pulled down either.
I don't want to wear any of my other pair of leggings that don't have pockets. I'm like, why would I ever wear leggings that don't have pockets? Like, it's been that life-changing. And as a mom, I always am carrying like my stuff, my daughter's stuff. Like, I'm just carrying so much stuff, I swear. So when I don't have them on, I'm like, where am I supposed to put my phone or my credit card or my keys or like this Paw Patrol toy that I now have to hold because she's done holding it, or like whatever. Like Gwen will put stuff in my pockets. It's just, they're the best and comfortable. And they're high-waisted, and they're made in the USA. They're made like in a really like a sustainable way, and like that they don't have any waste. It's just they're great.
They are.
I'm like gushing.
Yeah, well, and that's why they're only available for a certain amount of time, is so that they're not creating a bunch of stuff that like fast fashion wise, where it's going to be not purchased, not used. They're only going to make what people are actually buying and then going to wear. And that's also how they're able to keep the price so low, is because they're not stocking like all of this inventory. There's, they're really just making what people are buying. So it's pretty exciting. And for somebody who grew up like sketching outfits all the time, like when my mom used to make me go to church, I would just sit in the pew and draw like dresses and I don't know, outfits. And this was just like the coolest thing to come about. So I am psyched. I think you guys are going to be as well. People seem pretty geeked about the design. So I'm psyched.
Well, and the really cool thing is like when you get this, it's almost like a signature piece because they are only going to make the orders that they have ahead of time. And ordering's only open now for like another week or so, couple weeks. So you got to like order it now and then get them. And then, I mean, they're probably not going to be made again. So it's like a limited release thing that you got to hop on now if you want them.
Do we have the dates?
I do have the dates. Let's see. Officially, the leggings are on sale as of the 12th of April, which is good because they're on sale right now. And then the very last day to order them will be April 25th. Pair.
Tell your friends, get a pair. But if you're listening to this in the future, you never know. We may do this again, right?
Yeah, that's the dream.
That is the dream. If we kind of just a few times a year did, oh my gosh, that would be so fun. So fun. And you can guys give feedback, like email us, contact at Fit Bottom Girls, podcast at Fit Bottom Girls, tweet us, Facebook us, take pictures of yourself and them. Oh my God, so much fun.
Well, speaking of fun, we have a great interview with Robbie. And actually, you know, it's not all fun. Actually, we get kind of serious. And I really like this discussion, by the way, Kristen, talking about, we're going to a little pivot here, but I really love the part where we talked about body image and eating disorders and women of color and how women of color are not represented in the media as much as white women when it comes to eating disorders and anorexia and bulimia and things like that. And I for one, I thought her point of view was really interesting.
I agree. This was one of those where I finished this interview and I got together with some friends later that day and I just talked about it like nonstop to the point where they were like, yes, we get it. Thank you for sharing, Kristen. That's great. But it really is so powerful because representation in all ways matters. And so it was really neat to get her perspective on this and it's not only representation within the media that she's talking about this. It's also just a matter of, you know, she was saying that like in her community, you know, in the Black community, her experience was that it just wasn't talked about. It wasn't really acknowledged. It was kind of seen as a white girl problem. And, you know, as a white girl, I just had no idea. So I think raising that awareness and making sure that all of us know that this is, you know, eating disorders don't discriminate.
Right.
They really do not care how, you know, what your skin color is, you know, what your hair looks like. It is affecting all of us. So, you know, I think that that's so important to keep in mind.
And the pressures to look a certain way and to be a certain way, that crosses all lines. All of those media images, like they really, really matter.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into our interview today with Robbie. She was so fantastic. You guys are just going to love her so much. Here is our interview with Robbie Ann Darby. Robbie Ann Darby is a Texas-born, California-raised actress and dancer turned fitness expert with over 10 years of experience in the fitness and wellness industry. She's had the opportunity to teach and train all over the Southwest and Northeast regions, and in 2012, she founded her business and fitness movement, RAD Experience, LLC. As a source of inspiration for those looking to radically change their health and overall life, proudly she uses her BA in Drama and Dance, Spelman College, and MFA in Acting, the University of Texas, Austin, to motivate others on a national level. She covers fitness trends, groundbreaking wellness topics, celebrity workouts, fitness fashion tips, and so much more for outlets such as Shape, Self, The Root, The Griot, Brooks Running, Black Doctor, High 50, Hello Beautiful, and a number of other influential publications. She is here today to talk about overcoming eating disorders, her RAD fitness parties, and her new life in LA. You can follow her at RAD Experience on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Welcome to the show, Robbie Ann Darby.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have FBG Kristen.
Hey, guys.
So I'm going to ask you the first question. I am having so much fun looking at your videos on YouTube. Can you tell our audiences a bit about your RAD fitness parties?
Yes, exactly. So I started throwing those fitness parties about 4 years ago because people were constantly asking me, like, how do you hang out at the frequency in which I do, but also like work out and keep your lifestyle healthy? And I just seemed like a very natural thing for me, and I realized it wasn't natural for people. So I wanted to educate people on a way to have a full life that's social and fit and sweaty. And I was like, why not start throwing these parties? So we started doing them as like open events where we just had the workout, live DJ, and then we'd also have like healthy bites afterwards, where they're like, you know, small bites. We've had all the way from like full like spreads. We had a Cinco de Mayo one where it was like tons of food and then drinks. So we just show like healthy ways to make your favorite things, you know, healthy. So then they ended up evolving into private parties, which is the way we kind of do them now. We still do big open ones like general admission. But for the most part, companies come to me and are small groups, and they have them for bachelorette parties. We've done one with kids, teens. So the options have been limitless. Just imagine event planning meets fitness.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and having met you, I can say that, like, yeah, you definitely bring that kind of like, fun, sparkly, positive energy to everything. So I'm sure that that a party with you would be super fun.
Thank you.
So when we were offline before we got started today, we were talking a little bit, just really briefly, about you had just done an interview on your eating disorder, and as we're recording right now, last week was National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about, in your background, like when did you see a shift from dieting to experiencing an eating disorder? And like, how did you know this was happening at the time? And how did you figure this out? And how did you go about getting help?
Yeah, that's so funny. The answer to each of those questions like happened in years, would pass. So I was dieting in junior high. I was a little overweight in junior high, and so I just wanted to lose the weight before I went to high school. Everybody knows that transition from junior high to high school is like, this is big. I'm for teenagers, so I really wanted to just lose the weight. And I grew up in a house where my mother was on and off of Weight Watchers. So I grew up in what I call like diet culture. So I knew a lot about dieting just from the nature of my household. So when it came time to want to lose weight, I knew exactly how to do it. And then you kind of throw in the peer pressure and just the idea that you're a teenager into the mix. And it's, I tell people all the time, it was the praise that kind of plummeted me into that disorder space, because I lost the weight. I was doing fine. But I think the fact that my entire life had changed, it truly had. I tell people it was from ugly duckling to swan over between junior high and high school. Like I was teased a lot in junior high. I had my small group of friends, but literally in high school was the opposite. I was head cheerleader, head of my class, very popular. And for a teenager psyche, that was a little confusing. And it also literally did launch me into this this idea that I want my peers to accept me. They obviously like me better this way. And, I'm also a perfectionist. That's very important to share with people, is that, I realized years later in therapy, that really is the impetus to me having this eating disorder and struggling with this, is that just this desire for success and this desire to always be the best and to be perfect, And so I've had to literally uproot all that and work on that in the healing process. I didn't go to therapy, unfortunately, until grad school. So when people hear me talk about my journey, it was 14 years, because it's a cultural thing. Yeah, it's also cultural. I tell this all the time. It's something that's very important to me, and I'm passionate about just dispelling the myths and just kind of changing this narrative. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that was really discussed in the African American community. It still really isn't. So my family and my community kind of saw it as this strange thing, but also like she's just going to grow out of it. It's a teenage thing, as opposed to what it really is, which is a mental illness. So I just kind of suffered in both shame and ignorance, too. I didn't realize it was as big of a problem until I couldn't get rid of it, like until I couldn't, quote unquote, just stop. Then I realized, okay, this is bigger than me. This is not something that I am doing and I could stop doing. I need to get help. And speaking of the cultural portion of it, I went to an all-Black girls' school, and my peers in my community looked a lot like me, and I didn't have that pressure. Whereas in growing up in junior high and high school, and where I was raised in Sacramento, I was always kind of the only Black girl in situations. And so it just really is interesting to me, and I talk about this a lot, just the cultural and racial, things that are not really discussed, because people think it's a white girl's disease, and it's not. But I will say, because I didn't see it in people, and I was very ashamed of it in college, it kind of just went dormant. It didn't go away, because it is a mental illness. It just wasn't as rampant in my life. And then the opposite happened. I went to grad school, and my environment shifted again back to what it was like in high school and junior high. And it came back full-fledged. And at that point, it had been in my life for so long, we're talking a good 10 years now, that I had no control of it. And so, of course, that's when therapy finally came into the equation. It was life or death at that point for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and how did you end up Was it just that you finally said, you know what, I see this as a problem, I need help, and you sought therapy, or did somebody step in and lead you in that direction?
Somebody stepped in, and I think because at that point I had gotten so fed up of trying to stop on my own that I really didn't want it anymore. I was very aware. I tell people in junior high and high school, I was more aware of the success and what it was affording me. By the time I was grown and, in my 20s, I was very aware of how much it was taking from me life-wise. I was very ashamed of how, because it takes a lot of effort to maintain an eating disorder, from lying to just secrecy, constant secrecy, the shame. It was really weighing on me. So when someone stepped in, it was actually one of my classmates in grad school. I went to grad school for acting, and it's a very small program. It was only 12 of us, and one of the white girls in my program, she had experienced it when she was in high school as well, and she had a very different story, which goes back to the racial portion I'm really interested in talking about a lot lately. Is she got help early, and so she understood more about her condition, but she also had an understanding of the, just empathy. When she noticed the behavior in me, we were at a party, and I think she was in a moment of relapsing, and I was just in a moment of just out of control. And she kind of picked up on the behavior, which I do too. Just in my everyday life, I could pick up on the energy and the behavior of people who are also suffering, considering how long it was for me. And I'm grateful she picked up on it. The next day, that was over the weekend, we were at a party, and the next day in class on Monday, she mentioned it. And initially, I'm just kind of like, I was so embarrassed and upset and just like, no, you're wrong. But then very quickly after that, I was in my own private space. I was like, she's absolutely right. And we had therapy, thankfully, at UT Austin. The Department of Eating Disorder Awareness and Treatment is just phenomenal. I mean, I look back and I just can't imagine being where I am today had I not gotten help in that way and had that access, because it was, not only was it free, it was exceptional. I went all 3 years of my graduate training.
So I was looking at an essay that you wrote for Self magazine, and it was about the Netflix movie To the Bone, which is about anorexia. And you said this, and it falls into the familiar trap of an after-school special about anorexia. And that's why I don't watch a lot of those movies too, because I feel the same thing. But can you expound on that just a little bit more about why you think these movies offer just such a small look at these eating disorders?
Yeah, as someone who's lived through it and who also watched movies like that when I was in junior high, and I'm not saying putting blame on it, but I will say it did more harm than good.
Yeah.
Seeing those kind of movies. Yeah, and it definitely also, I tell people, for someone so young, or just someone that is, just realizing that they have this condition or this disorder, it can almost serve as like a template of showing you how, because the big thing in the eating disorder community is comparison. And social media has done the best they could, especially on Instagram, like blocking certain hashtags. But I realized it before, when I was growing up, I obviously didn't have social media, but in my community, when there were other girls that I realized were doing it, instead of us being like, oh, we have a problem, let's get help, it's like, oh, let's work together to keep our secret, and let's work together to maintain this. And that's really, so you almost have a culture of like sisterhood, secrecy that comes along with it. And I think those movies sometimes are like a media version of that, Girls will watch it and they feel empowered, as opposed to, and it really depends on where you are in your journey. Like for someone like me that's in recovery, I could see this and be like, I don't need to see this. And that was they asked me that several times before I agreed to write it. Do you think this will cause you to relapse? I've been in recovery for 7 years. So, that is still a question that I ask myself, like, will something that I do in my everyday life cause me to relapse? And so it's tricky no matter where you are on the spectrum of the journey, because it's so much information, and the way that they did it, I knew it before I watched it. This is why I agreed to write the story. I knew there wouldn't be a character that looked like me in it. And I think that is something that's kind of disappointing after all these years, that people are still seeing this as a white girl, richer, and it's like people have more money. It's just so not true. Like every time I write about it, I'm just blown away about the amount of feedback I get from people that are today that look like me and that are of color, that are literally suffering. And I will say they live in that space of denial much longer than our white counterparts, because no one talks about it in our community. So as soon as you realize you have it, the first thing that comes up is, this is wrong, this is weird, this is something I shouldn't be doing, where that's not the case. Mental illness doesn't discriminate.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so it's so much untangling. I use the word like untangling and uprooting when I talk about this journey, because that's what it's been for 14 years for me. Is just like having the courage to talk about it, having the courage to realize that it's something that does happen to girls like me, and I needed help. It was just constant levels of like courage and just doing something that was not quote unquote normal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year we talked to Tony Carey from Black Girls Run, and she was talking about the importance of representation. And so it's really interesting to hear you talk about that from in this space, because obviously it's very different. She was talking about the importance of representation of Black women and, and of women of all shapes, sizes, races, backgrounds, specifically in things like athletic catalogs and magazines and things like that, show that, yes, we all can go and run and hike and enjoy being outdoors. I feel really embarrassed that it never occurred to me to think of this in terms of, because as soon as she said that, I was like, damn straight, yes, let's do this. Right. Never did it occur to me to think of that in this other realm of like presenting African-American women, showing that they also have that same struggle, because of course you do. So thank you for sharing. And I know that's deep and heavy, and damn, you are brave, girl. Like,
thank you. It's been, I think, in the editorial space with the writing, and for me, once I started writing, and of course I was writing about everything, like from leggings to turmeric and whatever trending topics. And after the first couple years of writing, something in my spirit was like, because I would write things that I didn't agree with, basically, or I would come across things that I didn't agree with, and then I was like, because I'm very aware of what triggers look like, when I think of eating disorder. I'm aware because I've been on so many spaces of this. I've been miserable. I've been on the brink of like, I'm not going to make it if I don't get help. And then I've also been in this this level of hope, and I know you can live after it, and where I am today. And all those spaces, I'm just very aware of what will I say or do that could trigger something / inspire somebody. So I'm very careful with the language I use, and that's been very empowering to be able to be in an editorial space, knowing that I can write something that could change the narrative. And to give a lot of credit to a lot of these editorial spaces like Shape and Women's Health, we're in a very different space than we were when I was a teenager, when we were teenagers. Like, I feel like this whole love my shape and girls seeing every body shape is going to change a lot for any race of a girl or woman. We're just at a different space now, and magazines are taking responsibility. They're even taking better care of the language that they're using on their covers and things like that, and the representation. And working as a fitness model, that's also been helpful, because I feel like whenever I book something, I know whoever sees this image, not only will they see my skin color, but they'll see that I'm an average sized girl, and it's the little things. I was talking to some friends last night at an Oscars party about how much Black Panther has meant to our community.
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
It's truly the same thing. It's representation matters, because when people see themselves, whether it's in media or just in print or anywhere, or just on the street, honestly, every time I tell my truth to someone just in passing, you could just feel that connection. We were born to connect as humans. So when that happens, that's when we're really, truly walking in like our purpose, I believe. So it's been very empowering, and I'm grateful for the journey. Like, it's amazing I'm able even to say that. I remember days when I thought, like I said, this was going to kill me. I didn't imagine life without this. And so to be able to not only live without it, but to talk about it has been quite incredible.
Yeah. So could I ask you, with your work as a fitness model, I can imagine that you do have to be cautious, because it would probably not be hard to spiral back into a really negative place. Yeah. Could you share some of the tools that you use, or whether it's a mantra or whether it's just a way of framing these different gigs, and when you see pictures of yourself and others, how do you keep yourself safe? And and I mean, I know that it's probably in part because you can feel powerful, and that you can share this positivity with other people, but like, how do you make sure that you're going to stay safe when you're in that realm?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that because it was even the beginning of my therapy. I told you I was in a graduate program for acting, and my no she my therapist, she was just very clear. She's like, you have to be very aware that you're and something wrong with it, but I just want you to be aware of that you're choosing industries and you're choosing ways to create that are gonna that could be triggers. And so I was aware of that, and then I also started doing fitness when I was in grad school. I got my certification as a trainer and instructor at the same while I was at UT while I was in therapy. So all three of these things are happening at the same time, and she was very clear on that too. She was like, "You're going to go into two industries, separate fitness and acting, where your body is your instrument. So just be aware of that." And so I actually ended up realizing that it was very hard to be in recovery, which is why if you kind of do the math, I talk about I've been in recovery for 7 years, but I went to therapy. I started and ended therapy almost 12, 11 years ago. So there was a good 5 or 4 years of constantly relapsing. And I realized that what you're asking, what she was saying was 100% true. So I just moved to LA about 7 months ago to get back to acting, quote unquote, because I did take a big break because I had to for my healing. It was just too much on my plate. It was too much on my psyche to try to get into recovery, but also go on auditions that include people, and that industry has changed too. I'm just really grateful. I think to answer your question, I've been able to maintain myself because I've changed and the industries I worked in have both changed. Like in fitness, like I got signed at a modeling agency as a fitness model as a size 6. And my measurements are on the internet, and they're not the measurements that you used to have, quote unquote, to be in that space. So that's big, when you can walk in a room. And I'm grateful that even when I got scouted for this agency, my first thought was like, no, there's no way. Like I have come way too far. It felt like I would be going backwards, that I would be throwing myself back into this behavior if I allowed myself to be in that space again. And then something in my mind was like, no, you've come a long way. And you'll know if you're getting out of control, and then you'll leave. But don't discredit yourself already. Just go and see. And then I left my first meeting when I signed like in tears, because I was just blown away that all the things that I had done before, from getting measured to how much do you weigh, all these numbers, would have just kicked me into a very negative space. And I walked out like, those are my numbers. I own those numbers, and I'm not defined by those numbers. Just the things that I was telling myself, were different. So what you were saying about mantras, yeah, it's a mental shift that has to happen with any recovery, any addiction, that you have to nurture that daily. And I still do. It's something, it's just part of the course. Like you can't, that's how you stay in recovery. I'm very spiritually aware. I'm very aware of the way that I talk to myself and others. Like I said, I do work in fitness. So the way that I teach my classes, the way I train my clients, my entire lifestyle had to shift to maintain this space of recovery, especially considering that I'm back in those two spaces as an actor and a model. Like I am very aware. But once again, the industries have shifted. So I'm supported in my shift, and that's helpful.
Speaking of that, we had the Oscars last night, and I was thinking to myself, like, so many beautiful women on stage, all sizes, ages. Rita Moreno. Yeah. I mean, she just killed it. I mean, we're living in a really great time for representation for women.
It's amazing. Like you could feel it, and I could feel it when I was living in New York, and that was I was so nervous to move out here. I've been trying to move out here for years. I'm originally from California, so I knew LA was always on my list. And I just remember the turning point for me was like, you're like making up this space in your head that you think is going to be so scary. And now that I'm actually on this soil, it is so different. It's so much inclusion, and it was a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. It's a long way to go, but you can feel it. You can feel the vibration. So whatever you're seeing on TV and through these award shows, it's happening on the ground level too. It's really incredible. People are very supportive, and especially when it comes to women. Like we're uniting in a way that I have never seen in my lifetime. In the industry and outside the industry. It's been very empowering. I'm really grateful it's a good time to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I have there's a topic that we have covered with a few guests, and I'd love your take on it. And it's another kind of heavy one. So I'm sorry, I feel like I keep on just lobbing these giant weighty things at you. But so it's finding the balance between being proud of who you are and what you look like and loving yourself exactly the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
And also being interested in beauty products and clothing and,
Mm-hmm.
having, taking pride in the way you look and in the way you can make yourself look.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one of those people. Like, I love makeup. I love playing with my hair. And I firmly believe there's room for all of that. But I
Mm-hmm.
wondered if you could talk a little bit about that dichotomy, given your background and your current work. Is that something that you consciously try to balance? Is it something that's just there? Is it tricky for you?
I think, and I look back, I feel like I was talking to someone recently about, my makeup. Someone had a comment like, oh, your makeup looks so natural. That's really, and I also was like, well, first of all, I'm 35, so I've been wearing makeup a long time.
Right.
I started wearing makeup in junior high. Like my mom was very laid back. Like I think a lot of my peers were like, oh my God, you're allowed to wear mascara. And I'm like, to my mom, it's like she can wipe it off. It's nothing that doesn't define her. So I found it very odd growing up. People find it odd that I had this disorder because my mother was very like empowering. Like, oh my God, I mean, like daily, you're so pretty, you're so this. Like I just constantly, so self-esteem wasn't an issue. And people equate self-esteem with this disorder, and they're not. That's another myth. It's actually nothing to do with self-esteem. Sometimes it's the perfectionism. But for me in the beauty products, I think I've gotten to a point just because of age and just maybe lifestyle and maybe my situation I've been talking about with the eating disorder. I like a very easy, natural, but glamorous look. And especially working in fitness right now. Like when I started, this was well before fitness fashion was a thing, So I would spend so much time before leggings were cute to try to look cute at work because fitness fashion was so, like a basketball coach. Like I always looked like I was going to coach a team and I was really just going, So it's very hard to be glamorous. So I'm the opposite. I actually did a thing with Women's Health in June, in the June issue on their street style. And they had picked me out to talk about my style, my fashion, because I take a lot of pride in my workout clothes, because it's like, I wear it every day for what I do, but the stuff is cute. So I wear lipstick when I work out. I wear mascara. I wear makeup. Like I get dressed. It's like, it's a thing. But for me, I try not to let that define me. Like I recently thought about maybe going on, it's kind of trending right now, this whole like makeup free.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's not who I am. Like since junior high, I've always had, I don't always have a full face on, but I do. And my parents are also Southern. So that's a whole nother layer. Like I really are really raised to be put together. That's just the way. You don't step out without your earrings, So going out makeup free, even the whole legging thing was hard for my family to accept. Like it seems like you're not dressed, when you're grown up from the South. So with that said, I just think by the nature of how I was raised and the way I've been living my life over half my life, I always will have a concern about how I look, but I try not, like you said, to let it be to define me. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not gonna lie. There's been days when I'm not feeling well, and I'll put on lipstick just as a pick me up, and it works.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Nothing harmful with it, So it's like I think it gets a bad rap sometimes of like you'll hear guys be like, "I think you're better without your makeup on." Well, I don't. So
right,
so.
Yeah.
So that defeats the purpose. Yeah. I appreciate it. I know you're trying to give me a compliment, but no.
Right. Okay, so totally superficial question here, but do you have a favorite lipstick? And especially one that like stays on while maybe you're working out, because this is very important to me. I can't deal with reapplying all the time.
Yeah. So for me, I also have very, very, very sensitive skin. Like I've had it since I was a little girl, eczema, psoriasis, and as I get older, I'm realizing a lot of environmental things. So I actually had a cosmetic skin allergy test about 1.5 years ago, so I know exactly what I'm allergic to. That's in makeup, and unfortunately, it's in a lot of things. So I do a lot of lip stains, and really old school lip stain, which is just lip liner, and like a little moisture, just for my sensitivity. So I love what's it called? It's like a plumish color from MAC. I also have MAC Pro. This is just me just being very transparent because as a model and actor, this is like back in the day. I've had MAC Pro maybe for like 10 years, where you get a discount for being in the industry. So just from that discount alone, I actually just wear a lot of MAC because it's just I've been able to get it at a cheaper rate. But I love Alame grocery store like if you're gonna get a grocery store brand that's good, I love Alame's tinted lip balms, all the colors, every single one are so good. I also love Fresh, their sugar lip balms.
Oh,
yeah.
I've been hearing a lot about those.
Yep.
Yeah, they have one called. It starts with the what is it? It's Fig. Fig is my favorite. And it has a little bit of glitter in it, so it feels a little like very like glammed up. But I'll just use that honestly with whatever nude color lip liner and fill it in. That's basically what old school lip stain was. My mom and her friends, I remember them literally their lipstick not coming off because they would fill their lips in with lip liner first and then put the lipstick on. And that's how they would keep their lipsticks from, having to reapply. So I just kind of, from what I saw growing up, I just do that. And I've always been able to like rock a whole lipstick through a whole workout for that reason. Like it just stays on. And then the moisture of the sugar tinted lip balms, you don't, because sometimes the lip liner can be drying. But I find that when I use that with the sugar, it's like just the right amount of color. Because I think there is a limit, for someone who wears makeup to the gym, I think there is a limit. Because I'll say girls and you're just like, this is a little too much makeup. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're literally, like, when I think of whatever's touching my skin, I don't overdo. So the lipstick, I don't mind going crazy, like a full red lip. Mascara, if it's waterproof, it can withstand a workout. I just don't do like the foundation and like, the stuff that's going to really sweat through. Because then I feel like I do have issues with that. So if I have any blemishes, I'll maybe do a little concealer on those spots. But I'm really into tinted moisturizers because that is a very light way to get the coverage you need and not worry about your sweat, like breaking out your, having breakouts because of it, having too much foundation on.
Right.
So yeah, I've done a couple articles actually on sweat-proof makeup because it's something that I've been doing. A lot of brands are now marketing themselves with having this sweat-proof makeup. Like you got Clinique and, Sweat, like all these brands are like, these are made for women like us. But honestly, it just boils down to the product and what's inside of it and how much of it you have on and what kind of workout you're doing. If I'm doing yoga, okay, I might wear my foundation because I'm not going to be sweating the way I'm going to sweat if I'm doing interval running classes,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we might have you send those links over if you've got them, and then we can
Oh,
include
for sure.
the show notes.
Yeah, there's a lot of brands who are doing really well. I'm a big fan of Bobbi Brown, and everything that they call longwear is truly longwear. Every single thing. They've done a lot of research. They actually, when they first launched the longwear, they tested it on professional athletes like Serena Williams and stuff, and so it's good. They had they wanted to, I'm sure they could have marketed it as workout proof makeup. It's just longwear. So even if you don't buy into the marketing of a workout proof makeup, if someone's marketing it as longwear and it's truly longwear, it's sweat proof. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So what about fashion? Who are your favorite brands and designers that you like to wear?
Oh my goodness, fashion. This is my favorite because like I said, it was like yesterday that I was wearing tracksuits all the time. So now it's so fun. I'm really into Onzy, only because initially they had that one size fits all and I was kind of like, this is weird. There's no way it does fit everybody. But because of the disorder portion of my life, I saw an empowerment in that I didn't have to worry about sizing. It's like, it's just, if it fits, it fits. It's two sizes. It is what it is. But I've just grown to love the brand. They have obviously branched out to more sizes, but I just love their leggings and I just love how simple everything fits. And like a lot of brands like Lululemon, the Wonder Unders are the same. They're just changing the colors and maybe a little bit in the fabrics. And I think from a shopping's perspective, and also the older you get, it's nice just to know it works, It's just nice to go and I can go get that same legging that I know fits and I know it works in a whatever trending print is happening, So
Yep.
yeah, so I love those brands that are very, and I worked a little bit in fitness fashion. A couple years ago, I taught myself how to sew. And
Really?
Oh my God, yeah, it was something that I was just doing. My mom passed 5 years ago, and I was just having such a hard time with the grief, and I was really afraid I was going to relapse in the disorder because of how hard the grief was. That I was like, I need an outlet. I need to teach myself something new to distract me. And I don't know, I've never had that, desire. And I just somehow was like, I'm going to try to learn how to sew because I'm so tired of buying things that look so basic. Our fashion is pretty basic nowadays. Like not even fitness fashion, just in general, like the way we wear like more drapey stuff. And,
Yeah.
and my mom used to sew, and I was like, she would always talk about how this is like marked up, this is easy to make. And I was just like, maybe I can learn. And it turned out I had like this hidden talent. So I was making my own clothes. And of course, with me being in fitness fashion, working in fitness, I started making like just like pullovers or like easy things to throw on after working out. And I was getting stopped a lot. So all that said, I learned a lot about the distribution portion of fitness fashion and fashion in general. And I can say now I know a lot about brands, and that's what my favorite brands are. That's why I love Onzy and Lulu. I know that they are catering to the audience in a very authentic way, but they're also being very authentic to their quote unquote brand by having those signature pieces. Like it's really something about that. Like I said, people like ease. So to know that they have their signature pieces, Fabletics does the same thing too. That solar legging, like when you have signature pieces, it creates like this, your followers or your customer, it's a security that comes with that, because you know that you can just count on that legging. Even if they bring something really unique to their design one season, you know they always are going to have that solar legging, and that they're going to change the print and stuff. And so I think that's nice. Like I love brands like that. I love Fabletics because it's very good quality. When they first came out, when I was writing for a magazine at the time and I covered their launch, I was blown away with how good the quality was. Because they actually came out when a lot of fitness fashion almost had a boom. Like we've kind of slowed down now enough that people realize that you just can't jump in this industry and be faulty, because it's not like jeans and stuff. Like we're working out in this stuff. So if it doesn't hold up, people are going to talk about it, Like if your leggings are see-through, if they fall down when you do burpees, like it's just, we have less leeway for bad quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there was around when Fabletics came out, it was an overflow of fitness fashion. I was like, okay, it's getting out of hand. People don't know, and people are just marking up the price because people know that it's acceptable now to spend $100 on leggings. So brands were launching leggings for $100 that were really worth $34, And I was the opposite for Fabletics. They're launching a legging that could literally go for $100 at $34. So I was really into them from the beginning, and they've just gone from better to better to better to better over these years, because it's like, this is really good quality, and it's marked down. It's worth more than it's really good quality, and especially great for the person that's just getting into fitness fashion. People like you and I, we almost were waiting for this moment, so we're in it.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince us. Like
right.
It is. Whereas people who don't know, just like when denim had that moment, when people are like $200 for jeans, no way, and the next thing you know, designer jeans were a thing. So that's what happened with fitness fashion. People were just like, I'm not spending that much money on workout clothes. And now it's very rarely do I hear people say that, because the worth of it is people realize you can wear it all day. It's cute, it's fun, it's functional. And I think Fabletics catered to the new person to fitness fashion. You can have this membership and build this really beautiful wardrobe of fitness fashion that's not going to break the bank, and it's good quality. It's genius. Fabletics, I would say, honestly, from just an overall standpoint, is my favorite, from the quality to their marketing to everything. Just like I really enjoy what they're doing. And then even their partnerships with Demi. And I really am a big fan of Demi because of her eating disorder journey. I just think that they're sending a very clear message. And it's clear to me. Like, I think young girls can be very empowered. It's more than fashion for Fabletics. And I think that's important. So they're my favorite, I'd say. Yeah.
Do you see any big differences, since you mentioned that your move from New York to LA is fairly recent? Do you notice a big difference in the fitness fashion realm between the two areas? I'm guessing the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, it's really funny because there's a lot of people here. We call them New York transplants. A lot of people here that have come from New York to LA, and I'm meeting a lot of them. And I could say that, especially in the industry, I was at a press event when I first got here. And, the press events for fitness in New York, the whole scene is very different for fitness in New York. And I knew that LA had fitness going on. It's very clear people are very healthy. It's a lifestyle here. It has been before it was a trend. So I just expected it to be very similar. And it's different because the way that we style our fitness fashion from New York versus LA, you're in a car here. You have a chance to maybe pop in somewhere and change. Like, we have to deal with maybe not the most clean bathrooms. Like, whatever you get dressed to go in New York, you're going for the day. And I think that informs the way that we dress. anything that has double function, anywhere down from our backpacks. Like I think all these really cute backpacks, we were the target market, New Yorkers, because I'm not going to wear I'm not going to wear JanSport when I'm going to be gone all day. It has to be fashion and function for us in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, it can just be fashion because you can just throw your bag in the car. It doesn't have to be durable enough to walk around all day. So I noticed that people don't have a lot of, it's a lot of color. That's one thing. That's the most obvious difference. I have so much black and I feel odd, because here people, even if you have on black leggings, you have color somewhere in your shoe, in your sports bra, whereas I would just wear black from head to toe. And it's cute stuff though. So it's like people will see you and they're like, oh, okay. But they know right away you're from New York. That's a dead giveaway. So when I've been at events and I see other writers or other editors and I look at their fashion, I'm like, oh yeah, that girl's from New York. And sure enough, I'm always right. Yeah, because it's not only are we in all black, it's just the way we wear our black. Like it's just something very sleek, and I can't describe it. But you just know it when you see it, especially when you were living it. But yeah, there's a lot of color here, a lot of light colors. Like I didn't see a lot of white leggings in New York. It just wouldn't make sense to be getting on the train and running around like they would be filthy. But I see a lot of girls pulling off very light color leggings, whites, light pink, a lot of matchy here, which it looks cute. Like I'm not there yet. I think maybe after a year or two I'll get into the culture here, but I see a lot of the matching sports bras and bottom, and I didn't see that a lot in New York. It wasn't very matchy. I think it's people really piece their stuff together uniquely and in their own way. It's a lot of personality behind the style. In New York, I'll see girls on the street or in classes, and I'll be like, oh, I would never think to wear that like that. And the next thing you know, I'm going home and trying to pair mine. So it's like a runway. But that's New York in general, fitness, fashion or not. People are very creative with their style. And we're also on the street, so we see each other a lot. And here you don't see people unless you're in the gym or in a workout space. Whereas I would see really cute fitness fashion ideas on the train because we're just close to each other. So that's something that overall I've been adjusting to, is that your interactions with people are very different because we spend a lot of time in our cars here.
Let's talk about fitness trends. You seem to try out everything that comes along. Are there any new workouts that you're excited about or you're dying to try out?
Let's see. It's tricky because I work for Equinox, and we have a lot of signature programs. And not even if I didn't work for them, I would say the same thing I'm going to say. Like, we're the leader of fitness, so we always have the next big thing. We actually just had a training for the next big thing, and it was fun because it's top secret because it doesn't launch until couple months and we can't talk about it. But so I've been grateful that I work in an environment where the next big thing is happening. So, but from an editorial space, I'm really into what people are doing, knowing that I work for the next big thing. I'm very inspired when I see pop-ups like boutique fitness and just people starting their own brands. It's very cool to follow that because I know what it's taken for them to do that, considering their competition like Equinox. You know what I mean? So boutique fitness is really cool to me. I think it's very cool to see the community it's driving. And here in LA, it is a ton. I mean, like, I could probably start a whole new blog if I were to just go out there and try all these fitness classes and fitness pop-ups and studios. That's something that they definitely have over us in New York, is but there's not a lot of franchises. So with that said, it's very divided. So you have to kind of find these little studios. They could be anywhere. And it's a lot of hybrid workouts, which I'm a big fan of because people assume that I spin, and I'm not a huge fan of spin, honestly. But if you give me a spin class that's like spin and then we get off and do a little yoga and then we lift weights, I would be open to that. I like an idea of something that's constantly changing. Going back to my fitness parties, that's the whole premise of them. I'm like all about the fun. So whatever brings the fun, whether it's from the music to the constant varying of the workout in that 1 hour or 45 minutes, anything with these, like, a lot of the big thing is technology now, like at Orange Theory, they have those boards. Anything that's just going to like do something I haven't done before, I'm down with it. But I've also been teaching for almost 12 years. So I am also open to those very simple, let's just a step and do like some cardio on the step workout, so it just depends what kind of mood I'm in. But I love these hybrid workouts. I love the boutique fitness, especially because of the culture. you can go to those boutique fitness classes and it's like you're walking into many sororities and fraternities. Like the community in those spaces is very cool to me. Like, you know, so it's been fun. It's been fun to see here in LA how people do work out. It's a little different, like I said, than in New York. I think boutique fitness, people were trying to figure out, like ClassPass does very well here, I notice.
Yeah.
Because in New York, you I don't know if it's the case anymore, but ClassPass, you would be getting the leftover essentially. So if they had any spots open, then it would kick over to ClassPass. Whereas here, because there's so many boutique studios, there's always classes open. So I know actually some editors and some friends that use ClassPass because they can take all those classes for the regular rate and get a good spot and not have to worry about waiting on the wait list or anything like that, you know? But a lot of those big places from New York are coming to LA. Like I just saw Rumble's opening down next to Equinox in West Hollywood. So a lot of the ones that are really doing big in New York, it's nice to see them coming here because I do miss some of those places like Rumble and, you know, of course we have Soul Cycles and things like that. But you know what I mean? Like the big ones are everywhere, which is nice to see.
Yeah. So this has been awesome and fascinating. And I have one more question for you, and it's something that we ask all of our guests on the podcast. Okay. And that is, what is the last song you listened to before you joined us today?
Last song, huh? It might be that, what was it, from the Shape of Water? Or not Shape of Water, from the one that got the award. I can't think of it now. This Is Me.
Oh, it's in Coco?
No. Is it? No. It's This Is Me. I think it's from The Greatest Song. The Greatest
Showman on Earth?
Yes, sorry, that's what it is. I haven't seen the movie yet,
okay.
But they've been pubbing. Yeah, they've been pubbing the song so much. It comes up on my Spotify as an ad over and over. And then when I saw them perform it last night, I was just, being a performer, I just love watching people like lose themselves in the moment. And the Oscars are obviously a big deal. And it was pretty incredible to watch these artists. You can watch them watch themselves, be like, we're here, we're doing this. They're performing really well and very hard, and just like their hearts were just pouring out on the stage. So I've just been into it ever since then. So I listened to that this morning.
That's an awesome answer. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was really so much fun talking to you.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.